We're joined this week by Will Hayward. Thanks for joining us, Will. Why don't you introduce the sport and talk us through what the rules are? Talk us through how you play.
So the sport is korfball, and the fact that you have at least heard of it means you're in the top 1% of players in Wales, which is very impressive. So congratulations. So it's a mixture of basketball and netball, and men and women play on the same team, but men can only mark men and women can only mark women. So it's the only truly gender-neutral sport. Every guy you meet will say it's really like basketball, but actually it is probably more like netball. But the movement is a bit more like handball. So there's 2 baskets, which are called korfs, which is just the Dutch word for basket, and they are pretty much in the middle of each half. So unlike netball and basketball, where you play all facing one way to attack, your formations are circular because you play around a post. So there's a few rules in terms of travelling and everything. You can take 2 steps with the ball, but the key thing that makes a difference is the defended rule. So if someone can reach your shoulder, you can't shoot. So you need to either get away from that player to take a shot. But that defended rule, if you are between them and the post, it doesn't matter if they can reach your shoulder. So the idea is either to get away from the person and shoot, or get between them and the post. So you mark players one-on-one. It's a very, very basic overview.
That does sound a little complicated, but I'm sure we'll get our head around it as we...
I'm sorry if that's... It's really hard to describe, and actually when you play it is quite logical.
Yeah, it's probably easier to actually show the people how to do it than describe it, I suppose.
Yeah, just imagine you're trying to shoot in a hoop, and that's the main thing. You're trying to shoot in a hoop, but you change ends every 2 goals. So you have an attacking end and a defensive end, and there's 2 guys and 2 girls at each end. And you're always trying to, and every 2 goals you change over, so you can't specialise in one position.
I like that definition. Last week, the guy who we talked to, Richard, about baseball, said as long as you can catch a ball and hit a ball, you can play. And you're saying that ultimately, if you can get a ball through a hoop, you can...
Oh, yes. I mean, even if you can pass to someone else who can get a ball through a hoop, you're still doing a job.
So how do you get into it?
Oh, so I used to do taekwondo when I was younger, and I was... quite a high level in that, and then I tore my cartilage in my knee twice when I was 16 and 17. So I came to Cardiff University, and I wanted to play a sport competitively, but the problem is if you start playing football or you start playing cricket or rugby at university, the standard is really high because everyone who's playing it has played it since they were young. So I saw that there was a sport called korfball. It tends not to be as macho as a rugby club. I mean, you can't really be macho and say you play korfball. And it tends not to have quite as cliquey as some netball clubs stereotypically might be seen to be. So yeah, I went along and started playing in 2008. And I've now played 12 years. So I had 2 clubs in Wales, which is madness when you think about it.
We were discussing just before you came on that dynamic of not a dressing room, but a team room with both an even number of men and women is something which most sports people would be completely alien to them. I imagine the level of competitiveness is still exactly the same though if you were playing football or rugby.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the 2 most competitive players I've ever played with were both women, by miles. And I think the good thing about the sport is, because guys can only mark guys and women can only mark women, it means that all you have to be is better than the person who you're playing against. So when we first started a club in 2012, our best player was a woman who was not as tall or as quick as any of the guys, but she was better at shooting than every girl she played against. So the guy's job was just to give her the ball and just make it so that she could score. So it does allow you to, you're only as strong as your weakest player. So the idea is to try and target the weakest players on the opposition, and whatever gender that is, that's how you tend to, it's a bit brutal really.
I was just going to say, that sounds a bit horrible really.
It is, it's just kind of picking out the weak ones. If you've got, you tend to find actually the best player isn't necessarily the most important, because the strongest person will usually be marked by the best person on the other team, so you can cancel each other out. So it's the people kind of who are like the third or fourth strongest players who tend to actually make the difference in games. So if your fourth best player has an amazing game, they tend to be against a weaker player, and it's really interesting, and it's you can learn it very, very quickly. But getting to know the tactics and stuff is, well, I wouldn't say I know them yet, and I've coached for 8 years. So
where would you rank yourself within the teams you've played? Would you be at the top end?
I'm definitely in the top 100 players in Wales, but I think there's about 120. So that's it depends. When I played for Wales, I was very much like a spare part. My only job was to give the ball to the good women. But in the club, like the club we've started now in Newport, I'm probably, without blowing my own trumpet, one of the stronger players, just because I'm the only person who's played. But in a couple of years, a lot of our players, I'm sure, will overtake me.
So what you started playing for Cardiff University then? Is that what they called it? Not the Cobras, that's the American football team.
No, the Cobras,
the American football team. Yeah.
I don't think they've actually got a team name. I think it's just Cardiff University Korfball Club.
Fair enough.
But I mean, I guess with korfball, you can't. No one joins going, oh yeah, I've come to uni, I really want to play korfball. Like if someone turns up and has played before, they're usually Dutch, and they're only there for a year on Erasmus. Well, now we've got rid of Erasmus, but as an exchange student. So I think you kind of want to be very simple, because no one's going to go looking for a korfball team. So you need to kind of say, yeah, this is what we are. So I would guess that's why there's not a name. So I played for Cardiff University. I left once I graduated, I played for a club called Cardiff Dragons, who no longer exist. And after a year, I started Cardiff Raptors with a couple of friends. And we left that club last year, and we started another club in Newport called Newport Centurions. So I think of the clubs in Wales, I think I've played or founded something like 70% of them. It's a sad indictment on my free time. Is
there a team still in Cardiff?
Yeah, there's 3 teams in Cardiff. So there's Cardiff Raptors, there's Cardiff City, which was founded in 2001, I think, from ex-Cardiff Uni members, and then there's the university as well. There's teams in Swansea, there's one in Aberystwyth, and then there's the Newport one. So there's a Welsh National League, but kind of above that there's the English Regional League, which actually Wales teams play in. So Cardiff Raptors and Cardiff City both play in that, and then the league above that is the English National League, which is that's a really, really high standard. That's kind of 3 or 4 times a week trainings, and that's their actual sports people.
Do you get derby games? I know obviously you said there's 2 in Cardiff. When you were playing for the Raptors, is there, like in football when Cardiff play Swansea or when teams play their local teams, there's got a bit more edge to it? Is that a thing in football?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the thing is, it is quite weird because, I mean, for us, it's a big derby game when Newport plays Raptors because we've played and founded both teams. So it probably means more to us than it does to them. But it is definitely, there's a lot of competition between the Cardiff City and Cardiff Raptors. That's quite a kind of grudge match. But I think it's such a small world as well. I think in a way it's nice because you get to know a lot of people within it. But also, obviously, when you're like running leagues and you're playing, it can get quite competitive. Especially because like the standard, like the Welsh team is a pretty decent standard. Like we're not all based in Wales. Well, I say we all. I haven't played for I stopped playing for the Welsh team a couple of years ago once I got a real job. That made it a bit harder.
I don't know. Are you from Wales originally?
No. So I'm from Northampton originally. I never thought I could. Like when I arrived, I didn't think I could play for. Well, it was never going to be an option to play international sport for anyone really. But with korfball, once you've lived somewhere for 3 years, you can qualify on residency. And I've only ever played korfball in Wales, and all my coaches were Welsh. So I feel korfball-wise, I am Welsh. But I think when the World Cup or if the Euros had been happening this year, I probably wouldn't have been. I've lived of my 13 years as an adult, I've lived 12 of them in Wales. So I feel like I've only ever played.
Yeah, we'll let him off on this one. And that was part of the reason we did this podcast as well. Not only did we want to learn about things like korfball or baseball, because we didn't know until last week that there's a team in Cardiff that.
Baseball's awesome. Baseball's wicked.
Well, we're going to go down. We're going to go down and try it. The Cardiff Merlins, it is apparently the team.
The Cardiff what are they called?
Merlins.
Merlins, as in like the magician.
As in, I think they actually meant the small bird of prey.
Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. Not the wizard.
No, although we established last week that Richard was telling us that the reason they called the Merlins is because the guy who came up with the name was a fan of the Marlins, the American baseball team, and he thought that people might spell it wrong if they were Googling it and come across...
Nice. Search engine optimization, I like it.
Yeah, in the naming of a team, which is great. So, on which note, where did Centurions come from?
Well, Raptors originally was because I love Jurassic Park, and then when my mate Jimmy was saying, let's start another club, we could do it, and I was like, oh god, no, it's a lot of work, I'm not sure I can be bothered. And I love Roman history, and because of like Killian and everything, he was like, we could call them Centurions, so it was kind of a way to like entice me to join him. But originally we were going to try and base ourselves in Killian, but there wasn't really the sports halls and stuff around there, so it was Newport Centurions instead.
It's all indoor, isn't it?
So the competitive, like the leagues and internationals, are all indoors. But you do summer tournaments where you just tape out, usually on rugby pitches in the summer, which that tends to be a drinking occasion with a side of sport. And there's also beach korf, and there's beach korf tournaments. So it's the same, but you play on one post and you just play on a beach. But that's absolutely exhausting because the movement for korfball is in and out. So it all changes direction. So you're either running forwards or backwards usually. So on sand, that's pretty tiring. But it is really good fun. I mean, like I'd only ever played I've done taekwondo, and I'm a big football fan, and I played and watched lots of football, but I'd never really played a catching sport other than a bit of cricket. So it took me a bit of getting used to.
I didn't realise we had taekwondo in common. I did it. I got to black belt, and then like you stopped because of my knees.
I think loads of people leave because of their knees. It's just you either get really flexible or you just break.
I broke, yeah.
Yeah, I broke.
But it's good to know that I could still play. I still give korfball a try.
Yeah, I mean korfball. Annoyingly, I've actually had surgery on my knees twice since I've started playing korfball because it is quite knee intensive, which is why I coach a little bit more now, and that was another factor in me stopping playing internationally. But it is quite it's very knee intensive. You
mentioned it's Dutch. I imagine. Is there a World Cup? I assume there is.
Yeah, there's a World Championships. My only Welsh caps are actually at the World Championships in China. Which was awesome. So the best team, the teams that get paid to play are basically the Dutch and the Belgians. And then, oddly enough, Catalonia has a team, which is quite fun, really. So them and Chinese Taipei, which is Taiwan, also have a team, and they're like they're the third and fourth teams, and then England are kind of around that level as well. But the Belgians and Dutch almost always contest the final, and the Dutch almost always win. I mean, it helps that I think they're the tallest nation in the world. I remember the opening ceremony, I'm 5'8", and I was standing there. I think the two Dutch guys next to me were both a foot taller than me. It was it was pretty devastating. I was like looking them right in the nipple. So that was good. But it's so there is international tournaments, like there's Europeans. I know people who've to go out to South Africa for World Championships and stuff. It is quite an international tournament.
How was that experience? I mean, I didn't realise you can claim that you've basically played at a World Cup for Wales, which obviously, I mean, not many people could say that, especially from Northampton.
Especially from, well, it was quite weird. So you got, I'd say 60% of the team were, I'll say, organically Welsh, and then the rest of us were
adopted.
I don't want to say imposters.
Adopted Welsh.
But I mean, it was an awesome experience. I mean, you go there and you get there's an opening ceremony, and it's so. I mean, there was loads of people there, but I'm not sure if that's just because the Chinese government just 8 people go in. I can't imagine everyone in this. I say provincial Chinese town. I think there's like 7 million people there, but it was Shaoxing, and it was like really, really full, and people were like cheering. But I can't imagine a lot of people in Shaoxing were really
huge korfball fans.
Big balls of Dutch korfball. I think they might have been actively encouraged by their government, shall we say, to go in. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I mean, it's really we're here standing there for a national anthem, especially because I tried so hard to learn the words.
How did you get on?
I could do it at the time, and
could you give us a rendition?
Now I can sing it really passionately, but I'm pretty sure I'm just making noises similar to the words.
Go on, give us a rendition.
No. I can't.
All you can say is glad, and that's it.
My Welsh credibility hangs by a thread as it is. People on Twitter. Like, I've tried to learn Welsh, and I'm still. I suppose I am still trying. But yeah, it was awesome, and it was. What was really nice is like it was. So that was in 2011. So I was with the squad for about 4 more years on and off. But it was my first kind of experience of being like. I mean, I'd only ever really experienced like Welsh sport in terms of International Days of the Six Nations, and it was really nice to be just part of a team. And actually, I ended up almost being anti-English. I turned into I went really native. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan.
Became so Welsh that you started hate. That's brilliant.
I know. Well, it wasn't hate. It was just. I was just like, oh god. England team came out. I was like, a bit cocky, aren't they?
The last 2 guests we've got on, we've sort of in the spirit of lockdown given them a few quiz questions on their chosen sport. This week, because the amount of information out there on korfball is, let's say, limited, I was wondering if you would be able to we'll throw the spotlight on ourselves, myself and Niall. If you could, based on what you've taught us and what we've learned, if you could give Niall 3, I'm going to throw him under the bus. Give him 3, I'll take 2. As a team, we'll try and field your korfball questions.
Okay. All right. Who are the best 2 teams in the world at korfball? Countries.
Go on, Niall. You go first.
Belgium and Holland, I'm going to say.
Nice.
Yes.
You're a pro.
I thought you were going to ask him for the Chinese city. I was going to say that's harsh.
I was going to say, I didn't tell you how many points it was for a goal.
Oh, you didn't?
Go on, I'll take a guess.
Go on. I'll punt it.
Oh, okay, fair play. How many points is it for a goal?
I'll take, because this is going to be wrong, but I'll give you my theory. Because you said that the guys on the team like to think it's more like basketball, I'll say 2.
I was going to say 2 as well, but...
Unfortunately, it's 1.
It's 1, is it?
It's always 1.
Is there any way of getting more? Is every basket 1?
Every basket's 1. So, you're better off taking easy shots from close in if you can, than the glory-seeking shots from miles away.
And just quickly as well, how long is a game?
Game's 60 minutes.
Is it 4 15s or...?
No, 2 30-minute halves.
2 30s, right. Alright, well, I'll take the loss. I'll take the L on that one. No?
Okay. You change ends, so you can't be in any... You're not in one fixed position. How often do you change ends?
That's 2 goals.
Yes. Oh, yes. Very good.
I mean, we're a team. I'm actually pleased you get it right, but I feel like we're head to head, which is this.
I know, because you're both on my screen. It looks like you are.
It's red now, mate.
Feels like a classic Zoom quiz. This does.
Can you give me? Okay then, Phil. Can you give me 2 clubs in Cardiff? I'll give you 2 clubs in Wales.
I mean, I remember that you said overall in Wales there was one in Aberystwyth. There were a couple in Swansea. Cardiff were, oh God, don't get it confused with the American football now. The Raptors.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. The Cobras is the Cardiff American football. And then was just Cardiff City, you said.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then the big Centurions in Newport.
So some call them the greatest team in Wales. People are on this call. In fact, all of those people are on this call.
I'll take that. Right, we're 3 out of 4. Go on now, bring us home.
Okay.
Pressure's on that.
I don't know if I actually mentioned.
Oh.
How many people are on a team?
Oh, research beforehand has paid off, mate. You literally...
8.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how many
I
of
was
them?
going to think that. 4.
Yes.
How many
okay.
points are in a regular game? So, what, like, obviously, in football, you can have 0-0s and 1-0s, and then basketball, the other end, hundreds against hundreds. What?
So the higher level you go, the more goals there are.
Yeah.
So once you reach a certain level, it's actually really hard to stop people shooting. It's a bit like basketball in that regard. You've just got to shoot better and just try and pressure the shots as much as possible. In the Welsh league that we play in now, Centurions, you have kind of 13-8 was for scoring our first win that we got, and then we've played it when you play like the league above us. We played games which are like 19-18.
Right.
But international, you often see kind of 24-25 each.
Oh, wow.
So it can be fairly free scoring, and obviously that's you have a shot clock as well, so there is pressure to put shots up, and I mean I think it's a fairly good return if you see 50 goals in a 60-minute game, you're getting a bit of entertainment.
And how would you if you had a minute to look at the camera and sell korfball to anyone who wanted to play? Anyone sitting at home thinking after lockdown ends, I need to take up something new to get down to the Centurions.
A minute.
Oh,
can I do a 30-second pitch to women and a 30-second pitch to men?
Yeah, do it. I love that.
Yeah, go on.
So to men, I would say it's your time. Even if you've been rubbish at every other sport, it could be a time where you could actually be a big dog in something. If you're rubbish at everything else, it's a time you could actually be an alpha male. You get really, really fit. It is really tiring. You instantly have a really good friendship group of both genders as well. Like we have loads of people who move to a city, and it's awesome, and it's you get a chance to score. If it was women, I would say it's a really great way to get fit. The guys are totally non-threatening and borderline weedy. It's a really good way, again, to have a well-rounded friendship group. It's a really good way to start a sport from scratch, because if you fell out of playing sport in PE, but you want to get back into it, but are a bit hesitant, nobody joins a korfball club knowing how to play. So come along, because everyone starts as a new player. No one walks in as an experienced korfball. Unless you're Dutch,
in which case we expect you to know.
If you're Dutch, please join Newport Centurions.
Yeah, anyone from Holland who's now living in Newport or around Caerleon, get yourself to the Centurions. They're in need.